Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. What's up? How's everybody doing? We
Doing
meet
great.
again,
Hey
Shantanu.
guys, yeah,
How are you,
great.
man? How's
I'm
life
good.
been?
It's
Good?
good, and we have some interesting stuff to talk about today.
A lot. And let me ask, right? Have you ever wondered why brands spend equal, if not more, on
Uh,
telling people they've done good stuff than doing twice the amount of good?
and what are we thinking about right now?
We are, of course, talking about the noble edge effect.
Yes,
So, why don't you go ahead, tell people, everybody, hey, this is what happens, and we'll go into the root of marketing and where it really comes in.
perfect. Yeah, I think you guys must have obviously guessed in a way because noble edge effect. There's something noble about this effect. What it is, it's simply as a definition. It is when companies demonstrate social responsibility that is perceived as genuine by consumers. They are rewarded with increased respect. So, uh, I'm doing great for the environment. You are buying my products. We all are winning, and in turn, their products are increasing. So, just a quick definition is that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly, right? And it is the perception of good being done by brands
yeah.
increasing brand value
Hmm.
in a very simple way, right? That's exactly what, and this is why it becomes important for brands and companies to like really look at the social impact that they're creating and talking about the social impact, right? Because doing stuff is a part of the equation.
Hmm.
You also have to tell people, hey, look, I did it, else nobody knows,
Yeah.
right? Then the noble effect doesn't really come into play. I would say that's the most interesting part about this, and that's why to me, like I've worked on, I'm certain you also have worked on certain CSR campaigns, where you already like, dude, you've already done this activity, and you
Yes.
just have to promote it. It's a PR exercise,
Exactly.
right? And you're
And a lot of time I've seen that this PR activities get like kind of blogged or weighed down in just text and papers and printouts. But I think it has to be more fun. Like you have to talk more about achievements, but also the hardships which went through, right? Like every CSR activity, because I was involved in one. It was with Walmart Tech, right, back in India, where we went and all the leaders of the company went out and spoke to the students, did some great activities with them, made them also talk about entrepreneurship and talk about like how they can think clearly and things. I think it was a very good activity, and then we did a good job of doing a live stream of that. So I think these things are very important. The way you portray it also is super important, and a lot of people say like, yeah, companies are doing it and because they gain from it. But I think a lot of people fail to understand is like when it's done in a very authentic way, it's just like everybody's celebrating the part. Because you as a person, I think we will not, like as a consumer or even as a brand, we want to do good. That's our basic motto in life. Like you want to do good for your family, friends, people around you. And I think it's very important how you take it forward. As you said clearly, make sure you talk about it, be very vocal about it, create a campaign around it itself. Like
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure, right? Creating a campaign around the good that you've already done is actually a good strategy for campaign creation.
definitely.
And of course, you have to time it right. Think about a lot of other variables as well. But this also brings in the noble edge effect is rooted in another behavior bias called the halo effect, right?
Yes.
And that's, I think, an important thing to discuss as well, which is doing good brings good. It's like an old school social rule, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm certain moral science as a subject
Oh,
was just that.
only
Right?
that.
It was just
Do good, be
yeah,
good, and that's
good
it. Yeah.
things will happen to
Good
you,
will
right?
happen
It
to you.
was a very circle of life
Yeah.
equation where reciprocity is important, where you add value, for lack of a better phrase,
Hmm.
and you're helping people out, and that feels nice, right? It is basically in pure emotions. It's you practicing compassion,
Yeah.
you practicing care, and
Right.
when people see you practice compassion and care, they automatically are more compassionate and caring towards you,
Yeah.
right? And it's beautiful. I think let's talk a little bit about examples, right? Because I think we've spoken about the concept of it a little bit.
Yeah.
But what I think a very good example to begin with is one of the last ones on the list is Nike and athletes,
Oh
right?
yeah.
To me, that has always been something that I'm like, oh my god, what a brand, right? It makes me go like, that's a brand that cares, so compassionate, so caring. Look at the things they do for all athletes,
Yeah.
and especially when you have social issues, and they take a stand, right? And yeah, it might not be what some people call my side,
Yeah.
right? But it is them taking a stand for what they believe in.
Very true.
And for people who believe in the same values as what Nike represents, which is pretty much most athletes, they immediately are like, yeah, That's my thing. So I think that's a very good example of you championing causes, right from the amount of stuff they've done for charities, both in terms of setting up whether it's playgrounds and not just football or cricket. I know they've worked in skateboarding as well in certain parts of Karnataka.
Mm-hmm.
It's mad. I'm like, what is Nike doing building skate parks, right?
Yeah.
But there are a lot
And
of
these are things you don't even hear. Like I
yeah,
haven't heard it before. Probably our viewers have not heard this before. So
yeah.
that's very interesting. But they do it
A
because
lot of
it's doing
sports
good.
companies, a lot of people in this category, the moment they start working towards development of the next generation of sports
Hmm.
talent, right? And I'm not saying that, hey, you have to help the people who are incredible. I'm saying there's a lot of communities out there where just a playground makes a huge difference,
Yeah.
right? A ball makes a huge difference.
Very true.
And brands that can actually impact that and then talk about it, oof, it's a great campaign in the works already, dude.
But from here, it gets me into very good, interesting topic which we had put down here is we're talking about Nike doing stuff. We'll talk about more examples very quickly later. But we have a very good point here called perception versus projection. I think what I understood when we were discussing about this is like a lot of consumers perceive like this brand is doing great. They are doing stuff in sustainability, but that might not be the reality at the ground level, right? Like a lot of folks say like you buy something 1% of that goes through, but it's equally important to project that out in the world, and we have spoken that in the starting also, like making sure that they are not lost into conversations but actually are like a main star campaigns every couple of months or maybe once a quarter and maybe a end of the year reel, and just don't do it for your shareholders or just like internal teams. Make sure it's shared across the world, right? So yeah, that's from my side.
Exactly. And the idea also with perception and projection is sometimes you might have done a campaign with good intent,
Yeah.
but then you create, so you might have done an activity with good intent, but then you create a campaign
Hmm.
where you are the hero, not the activity.
Very true. It
And
has
that's
happened
the
so many
problem,
times. Yeah.
right? You're never the hero. The activity is the hero.
Uh,
What you did
And
is
from
this focus.
personally, I feel from this, I could give an example just coming in my mind. I
Mhm.
haven't researched on this. Is like when you include celebrities in these kind of campaigns, I think it's a whitewash because somehow or the other the focus is only on them. Like, okay, wait, this is a big celebrity who's on out there. They have done great, but the essence of the message is getting lost. So, very important to make sure that you do not include all the generic ways of doing marketing. I think break through them. Try to get someone who's actually a part of that change. That's why I like some campaigns where the ones who have been impacted by those practices by these corporations and has really changed their lives, they come on the screen and talk about it. And I think that's a better connect, at least for me, and I think for our listeners too.
For sure. I wouldn't be too strict on the celeb use.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on how much payments and those things are involved. For example, there are a lot of celebs who will do stuff for charity for free or something when they'll provide their voice or they'll come on camera
Mm-hmm.
and they'll be like, hey, this company did this. And this could either be your brand ambassadors or somebody who's a cultural ambassador. For example, there was this one time we were doing some stuff with United Nations in Africa, and we wanted Morgan Freeman as the narrator for the script
Yeah.
because of the power he holds in narration as well as the African community. Right? It's way stronger than Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Right? Like, as much as I love Iron Man or Spidey, like Morgan Freeman is the right choice for that.
Yeah.
So, and in some cases, celebs help build as well, right? Maybe to use it as an outcome, like where they're like, hey, we did this thing and look at the results that we were able to create, where the celebrity is, again, the activity is in focus. Right? To me, it's always that. So long as you manage to keep the activity in focus
Yeah,
and
that's
not
what-
the
very
celebrity
important.
or the brand.
But I think a lot of times the celebrities just get, they
Yeah.
don't
They
intend to, but they
over-
get lost. They
yeah.
overuse it, and then it just happens to be like, okay, wait, I'm just looking at the face of the celebrity. I know I'm thinking about the movies they have done, where they're involved in. They have done a bunch of this activities with different brands, but at the end, as a consumer, I kind of forget what they're talking about. So, but yeah, let's jump into more examples because we want to keep this short because it's a biases episode. So, the next one was, I love this example called wine tasting example for Noble Edge effect, where it states like we have two groups of people. A wine company did this workshop where they had 50 people on the one side, 50 on the other side. All of them were given the same kind of wine, but one of them were told about one of the group was told about that this company has done great in social economy backward classes, where they have worked with those folks and brought about change. And when they tabulated the results between both the groups, they found that the group which was told the good things that wine company has done, those the same wine, they rated the wine much better than the ones who didn't know about this. So I think it's a great example, because a lot of time when you do good, consumers tend to also forgive you better, I think, because they're
Yep.
like, okay, the end goal and the long term goal is this. I want to be loyal with this brand and be a fan and a supporter for these guys, because they're making a definite change in the environment.
100%, right? And that's a very good example because it builds on this concept that I'm not sure if it exists, but something that I work on called social credit,
Yeah.
right? Which is the more good you do, the more credit you have to, like, I wouldn't say mess up, but it's easy to, or it's easier to be forgiven once you come from a history of doing good things.
Yeah.
Or if you come from a history of doing bad things and do one good thing,
Yeah. Very
right?
true.
That's not going to, you know,
Like if you're a
landmines
fashion
you.
brand who's polluting the environment
Yeah.
from day one, and then at the 50th year you're like, it's time to change. I think it's too late to change now.
Yeah. I mean, that's really not going to whitewash everything that you've done,
else, yeah,
right?
because-
And that's supremely important because what that really talks about, if you read between the lines, is the importance of, to some level, CSR,
yeah.
and to some level talking about your CSR activities right from the inception of your business, right? This is the value that I'm adding. This is the kind of impact that the activities that my company and my business does is having. Look at the lives that have been changed because of my business.
Yeah, true.
And the thing is, it's also a more shareable story, right? That's the good kind of storytelling that organizations really should be striving for, and businesses as well. Because not only is it marketing collateral, right? That's just a part of it, and that's within the domain of 2 bits of marketing, the most important part.
Yeah.
But within the domain of business, this is what humanity is about, and you really should be doing it.
Very true. We can move to the few more examples. Do you want to talk about Tom's shoes, because I think that was pretty
and
cool.
I think you have a very good campaign as well for this. But the idea of Tom shoes and how they really got about is buy one and give one.
Yeah.
Right?
So
You
cool.
buy a pair of shoes and the company donates a pair of shoes. I think it was in South America,
Yeah.
in different parts, right? And that was the entire business model, or some would call it a business gimmick.
Yeah.
But that's what their value proposition really was. And they've done some really cool campaigns as well, just to give people an idea of the hardships that they're really trying to solve for. Right? What was it called? You have the name for that? The wear no shoes.
Oh yeah, they used the ethical marketing concept, which we'll have an episode coming up later. Is where they said, no shoes, walk without shoes. Where they simply said, walk one day without the shoes at home, or like just walk barefoot, and you will realize how millions of kids feel the same way every day of their life. And I
Exactly.
think it was
And
an incredible campaign.
Just the thought, right, is
Just the thought. Planting
imagine
the seed.
walking in that. Like most
Yeah.
of us would be like, bro, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
No, they're not asking you to do it. They're asking you to imagine that.
Imagine
And
that.
immediately it changes, like, yeah, this is our problem that we are trying to solve. Right? The noble edge comes off. And another example that I think is pretty evident that we see is, especially in technology and with spectacles, because
Yeah.
I wear them, right? Whenever you go to a shop, there's some that are like, hey, donate your stuff here. We will give it off to
Yeah.
somebody further down the line who may not have access to it. And that just makes me feel good. Right?
Same,
I'm
I
like,
think
I
Lenskart
go
did
back
it
to
really
them.
well.
Yeah. I keep
Lenskart
going
is a
back
brand
to
in
them.
India, a very big global brand now. They are also in US and Canada. They ship across the world. Where they did this thing where you buy their glasses and lenses, spectacles from them, and then they put a considerable amount of money to enlighten millions of people around India itself, because India has millions of people to help for
Billions.
that. Millions and maybe billions, yeah, but of course millions though here. And then they donated and got them spectacles. Who, like, people did not have money to even figure out their eyes were weak, so they sent out doctors around in as a campaign across India, where everything funded by Lenskart, where they kind of helped them to understand, okay, you need spectacles to see. And this is a very true fact. I think a lot of millions of people around the world have witnessed, where it's not easy to figure out that your eyes are weak. Sometimes you just
Yep.
feel like kids are told like, hey, you're just trying to escape from classrooms, you're just talking about headaches, you don't want to study. But the reality is there are millions of people who have lived without spectacles when they needed, say, of age of 4, and they got it at age of 10. So things like these are incredible noble edge effect, and I think I felt very proud when I used to buy from them back home. So that's one example. Do you also want to talk about we had a very good example called the delivery apps doing more for the
Yeah.
drivers. Very
Yes.
cool idea.
Yeah. So, and one thing that's important is noble edge effect is not just helping, people who are not part of your consumer community
Yeah.
or the larger society, but it's even internal. Right? For example, we talk about the value of great places to work, dude, the culture over there,
Exactly.
stuff like that. Noble Edge Effect also has an importance in delivery apps, for example, and their employees of like food delivery partners,
Yeah.
whatever the correct term based on the app is. I think there's some apps in this space that do a lot more for their drivers, whether it is providing them with really high quality all-weather, clothes.
Yeah.
or
Helmets,
hel-
protective
yeah,
gear. Yeah.
helmets, and in some cases, I know some apps they also have like textio kind of things where they tone down the language. Sometimes customers get mad at the delivery person. Like somehow the delivery person messed up the food.
Yeah.
Like, come on, dude, they're just here to deliver the
True.
food, right? So
Very
in
true.
that cases, they do a lot, and they try their best to. I think when Swiggy really did something cool back in the day for summer, especially, which was give the delivery guy a glass of water. At least have the decency of
Yeah.
basic humanity, right?
Very true.
And that's the thing we don't think about. Like, as a consumer who's been ordering from Swiggy for like years when I was in India, I never thought that the dude who's coming to deliver my food needed a glass of water.
Yeah.
Right?
Happens.
It's just like, am I a horrible human
And it
being?
also depends it depends on the geography here. Like, let's say
Yeah.
if you were in Bangalore that time, of course it's cooler there, you don't think that way. But say you were in North India when it's 45 degrees in Celsius, then it's just like a reflex in your hand, like you're like going to ask them, can I offer you a glass of water? But yeah, very true. And I think we did most of it. I think we covered
Yeah.
if you're looking at the notes. But
I
to
think
kind
so.
of summarize this, I think noble edge effect is very good for the society, but also good for the businesses if done well. Requires a lot of thinking. You cannot just start one day with noble edge effect and think it's a short-term goal. It's always going to be a long-term goal because you're going to build upon these campaigns. You're going to find ways you can help out people. You can also get feedback from your consumers. Be very open to the idea of bringing change, but also being open to criticism, because a lot of time consumers are going to think that you're doing it just for sake of profits. But as an organization, it might not be the case. You're actually thinking how I can give back to the society as an organization, and then profits will flow. So there is a thin line, like I would say. And lastly, you touched upon that great place to work, right? A noble edge effect also is kind of way to work with your employees, do a good employee branding, make sure of their goodwill, be very true to the fact that you create those values and you abide by them. Just saying them on a paper is not good. So that's about me, but like, what do you want to
Yeah,
put in?
I think just the final bits on the noble edge effect is nobility. The concept is maybe some people might think, oh, royals are noble, but that's not what you're talking about. Talking about people with genuine intention and companies who have the actual will to do good.
Yeah.
Great examples around the world. I'm certain each country has them. There'll be, I think Tim's in Canada does a whole lot.
Oh yeah.
In India, we have Tata, which I think is possibly one of the best
Changing
in the world.
families out
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
at a global level.
Yeah.
And why I'm bringing these companies up is it's important to take the right kind of inspiration as well, right? And these are companies you should be looking out for. Not necessarily like every Tom, Dick and Harry company out there, which is like, hey, look, I helped somebody and here's more proof. That's not the idea. Look at companies that are focusing on creating those genuine connections and stories. Build on the nobility thing, because that's what makes you feel good about it. That's it, folks. Thank you so much for listening.
much, yeah.
Really appreciate your time. That's all on Noble Edge Effect. We will see you in another episode about another topic on all things marketing on 2 Bits of Marketing. Bye.